thank you so much for joining us. And we're in Kiev at the moment of 30th commemoration of the Chernobyl tragedy, and it still has a quite huge impact on Ukraine when it comes to health and energy issues. But at the same time, I wanted to ask you that you participated in this huge, lavish conference in Kiev regarding Chernobyl tragedy. What's your impression? Does the conversation goes in the right way, and what kind of main goals people want to achieve 30 years after Chernobyl? Is this tragedy is over for the country?
So I think all those who tend to believe that this tragedy or this catastrophe can be over, they make a huge mistake. So there was a time before Chernobyl. There will never be a time after. There will be a time since. And people have to live with the unlimited consequences of the radioactive fallout. And especially for Russians, for Ukrainians, and for people in Belarus, it's very, very important to know this, because only if you are aware of the impact of radiation you live with, you can protect yourself.
But I remember this tweet you sent it out yesterday from the conference, and you said that all the participants of all the panels, they were men, and then that you felt like the talks about just the confinement side is the end of the whole conversation about Chernobyl, which in fact there are many issues that are being ignored. Which was it my right impression of your tweet?
So first, this issue of facing panels, 3 panels I followed only with men and relatively so also aged, you can also say experienced men from the nuclear industry and from science. And I think so that those men, especially some of the representatives of the international community, like representative of EBRD, they make a big mistake trying to say with the construction of the new shelter in Chernobyl, things are under control. The cleanup will take decades still. Decommissioning, disposal of the waste, so the control of the environmental burdens, control of the groundwater. There are tremendous tasks ahead. And what I understood yesterday is that some people, they want to send the signal, shelter, okay, to be finished this year, and by this we will have the things under control. This is wrong. Ukraine has to continue with the cleanup, and they will need the support of the international community.
Well, the general consensus that issues related to health impact are being overlooked and largely ignored in the countries that are the most affected, Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. And we're talking about millions of people living in contaminated zones still and being affected by Chernobyl tragedy on an everyday basis 30 years after the tragedy. Why do you think that the health issues are mostly ignored and still are not the main priority for local governments?
Maybe it sounds a bit too easy approach or analysis, but so playing down the problems on site with the technologies for the cleanup, playing down this is necessary maybe because same people in the same time want to use nuclear energy as a clean way to produce electricity. And playing down the health consequences in the most affected countries, I think has the same reason. Russia, Ukraine, and also Belarus, they want to prolong their nuclear programs, their nuclear power programs. And I think having too much concerns or awareness of health impacts of these catastrophes 30 years ago makes it more a problem. In addition is So I have also to admit probably is difficult to live with the presence of such a nuclear catastrophe, but it's a fact that there is a presence of the nuclear fallout until today.
Can you talk about more the report that you brought today? It mostly is based on, it devotes a lot of time, as I saw it, to health issues first and foremost.
So I commissioned a scientific report study 10 years ago when we had the 20th anniversary of Chernobyl. And this report looks in publications, peer-reviewed scientific publications on health impact of the Chernobyl fallout in Europe, so across the continent. And so only peer-reviewed figures came also into this now newly done, refreshed report, the other report on Chernobyl it's called, or in a short version, Torch Report 2016. And it shows again, so until today, millions of citizens in Russia, Ukraine and Belarus live in contaminated areas, 5 million in highly contaminated areas, 400 million in lower contaminated areas. 400 million people.
Oh,
400 million people in the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really a lot, and it's a wide region contaminated, and so it's if you look across Europe today, you can find the proof that as predicted, several different kind of cancers, the numbers are growing, especially thyroid cancers, but meanwhile also breast cancers and leukemia. And it's exactly also in the periods scientists had predicted the increase of those cancers that they happened. And so meanwhile, we cannot protect those who already died, yeah, because there will be a lot of fatal cancers among those. But we can better protect so those people who are living in the contaminated areas, and we can do more to protect children.
Well, my last question is related to clean energy, because in Ukraine, nuclear energy sometimes is being considered as an important alternative. At the same time, you represent the Green Party. It's your part of your political agenda to fight against nuclear energy. But at the same time, I wanted to ask about this global phenomenon of Energiewende, which is basically a movement in the last years that make out of Germany the first advanced economy that gets so much clean energy as a part of everyday energy consumption. 30% of German energy comes from clean sources. But at the same time, when you look at Ukraine, it's a developing country that struggles to just find enough resources for anything. And it has such an advanced nuclear energy sector. It's easy coming from Germany to say, like, you need, guys, more clean energy resources. But at the same time, it will take years and years of investments. How do you offer something like that to a developing country and make sure that developing country invests in clean energy?
I think for Ukrainians today is really important to understand that Energiewende in Germany happened because of Chernobyl and Fukushima. So after Chernobyl, there was already a clear majority against nuclear in Germany among the citizens, and the political pressure began to do something as alternative to this high-risk technology around nuclear. And so since 1986, there were better technical developments in Germany. When Fukushima happened, the technology was already there, and we could push a bit more than before, and all political parties after Fukushima agreed. So it took us also 2 nuclear catastrophes, tremendous catastrophes, to completely change our political approach on the energy sector. But what I find bizarre is that One of the countries which suffered most from Chernobyl, Ukraine, is still not able to rethink from top, at least, the energy strategy. We are right now in Ukraine, I would say, in a very interesting moment for changing also energy strategies. There is a lot of investment needed because Ukraine wants to become more independent from Russia. Ukraine also wants to become more efficient. So why not now deciding a strategy which really fits to come out of high-risk technologies like nuclear, which fits to fight global warming, and which in the end will also be less cost intense. So if we invest now into new energy sources, I would say Ukraine should not stick in the past, but should go for the future.
Thank you so much for the interview and coming here to Hromadske.
Thank you for inviting me.